Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 2 of Loving Me, Loving You. And I hope you, as always, can take something positive away from this rapport and just have a feel-good vibe from what is about to be spoken about today. And in today's episode, I have the pleasure of reaching out to a YouTuber from America named Maddie. Her YouTube garners over 90,000 followers. She makes content ranging from body positivity, recently sex, which is very inspirational for me as well. Advice talking about celebrating you as a human being, you as you are, and even as a content creator as well, which is very, very useful. She's a very, very multifaceted young woman and very forthcoming, I find, and very grounded. She does, like I said, multifaceted, so ranges from beauty, fashion, lifestyle, just positivity all around, and body positivity to the max. And it's just so natural to see, and it's just a pleasure to watch. And I have the pleasure of talking to her today. So I have the pleasure of introducing to you Maddie.
Hello.
So I've just said off camera that I only just discovered you quite recently. I think with the rise of the algorithm of YouTube, it just so happens to throw someone in my recommended. And YouTube for me is my main source of not my main, but one of the sources I get and insight of other people's minds, ways of thinking, what they've learned on their life journey. And the whole premise of this is to show that we all live different lives, yet we feel the same emotion and we come to almost the same place with the emotion. But I'd like to think everyone feels emotion. And why you started with YouTube, just in general.
Yeah, totally. So I feel like I've been sort of making videos my entire life. When YouTube first became a platform, I used to make videos with my friends. I had a billion different YouTube channels growing up. Would always just take my dad's video camera and record straight onto the VHS tapes to watch the back of the TV. So it's sort of just my whole life been just creating video in different mediums. And when YouTube became a thing, did it with my friends. And then, slowly my friends lost interest in making videos, and I ended up making my own channel when I was 13 years old. And the rest is history, really. It was just sort of my whole life. I loved making videos. And when I was in middle school, I was posting my videos on Facebook and getting absolutely bullied up and down for posting them on Facebook. And so YouTube became the place where I could create videos and share them and have people to watch them and just sort of create my own community, since my town and the community that I grew up in totally was not on my wavelength when it came to my video.
Correct me as well. How do I pronounce your last name?
Dragsbaek.
Dragsbaek.
Yeah, everyone always asks. No one ever gets it right, so I don't even worry.
At first I thought it was Dragsbaek, and I was
yeah, that's thanks.
It's very. Where does it come from?
It's Danish.
Danish. So in terms of young Maddie, what was life like? In terms of your overall mental health, hurdles, etc., etc.
Yeah. So I grew up in a really small town outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And I've always had a very close-knit and supportive family. My family has always been my rock. I'm very close with all my siblings, very close with my parents. And I've always had a tight-knit group of friends as well. So I feel like I had a great childhood in that sense, as far as support systems go. No matter what I was going through, I always had people to lean on and to come back to, which is everything. But I struggled with my body image a lot growing up and was bullied a lot for my body image growing up. So that was something that when I look back on my younger self, it's the two parts of me that have remained the same my whole life are like my love for making videos and my struggle with my body. And there is like, you know, memories that go as far back as like being 7 years old and thinking that I looked different or that I felt like I didn't fit in with other people because of what my body looked like. Like I remember being in the second grade and my teachers were having us use our weight as like the data in a math project.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is like horrifying now to look back on, but it's like I feel like sometimes with kids people don't even think twice about it because they're like, oh, you're all like tiny humans, who's going to care about this? But even when I was 7 years old, I was bigger than the other kids in my class and people pointed it out, and I remember being mortified that at the time I weighed 8 pounds more than all my friends did, and like that people were pointing it out and noticing it. And there was moments like that throughout my entire childhood, like tiny little snapshots that affected me on a level that I wouldn't understand until I was older. And then I think when I got to like middle school, that's when it started getting more and more noticeable that my body was developing at a rate that my peers weren't, and that I looked different than them. And they all noticed it as well. And it became like a big topic of conversation no matter where I went. Um, Now I've always been someone with like a very loud and powerful personality. So
I can relate.
whenever people would say things like that to me, I'm very much the type of person that when I'm by myself, I will like cry, break down. My friends have seen me like in every single season and stage of my life, but to other people, to the people that are trying to hurt me, I am like, you cannot fuck with me. Like you try to get inside my head, you try to bring me down. Like I'm not the one.
You don't show your weakness because that's what they feed off of.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I from a young age became pretty, my like desire to be right and my need to prove people wrong has ended up serving me a lot in my body image journey, because when people have looked at me and told me, oh, you can't wear this, oh, you don't look good wearing that, my need to be right has been like, oh, you think you're the one that's going to tell me that? Even if I agreed with them, even if there was a voice inside my head that was like, you do look bad, like you can't wear this, I was like, absolutely not am I going to let that voice win. Absolutely not am I going to let them win, because I'm the one who gets to decide this. So even if I was like really in a horrible headspace, agreed with what the bullies had to say to me, my need to be right and my need to be like bigger than other people and be like, absolutely not, you're not going to tell me what
It's
I
like
can't.
the mentality of like faking it till you make it, like making yourself believe it even if you don't. And sometimes that can actually work for some people.
It's one of those things that like looking back on, I, not that I'm glad it happened, because I'm obviously wish that I could like take the pain of my past self away. But I think in a lot of ways, because all of the things that I went through growing up, like that's why I'm able to like get on YouTube and like have such a passion to try to like talk about how I feel about my body in hopes that other people see it and it makes them want to feel that way too, or makes them think that they can feel that way too. Cause like I've felt those lowest of lows, and now to be in a place where I feel so genuinely happy with my body and myself, I just want to find like those other kids that relate to what I was going through when I was younger, so that they know that like there is a place at the end of it all where you get to celebrate yourself and feel totally confident in that, and like you're not faking it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, I know you touched upon it just slightly, in terms of your support network, in terms of family and your chosen family, did you have a lot of that growing up?
Yeah, so my family and I are super close. My parents, I've always had the relationship with them of like I can tell them and talk to them about absolutely anything. Um, and I have 3 siblings. I'm the oldest, and then I have a brother that's 2 years below, a sister 4 years, and then another brother that's 8 years younger than me. And I've always been extremely close with all of them, especially my sister. We did everything together growing up. We used to be on the same dance team together. So like every single day after school, we'd drive to do dance together. And she has been like such a cheerleader for me in my life. And we have like such different bodies, such different like struggles with our appearance in our lives. And like my sister has just been like such a champion for me. Like anytime I've ever said anything, or like taken any sort of leap to stand up for myself or post something online, my sister is like the first one being like, yeah, this is Maddie. That's my sister. Look at her go. And I've been the same for her. And my close friends are like that as well. Like most of my friend group are people that I've been friends with since I was like very, very young. Most of my friends are like I've known since I was like 7 years old. So like that's like super irreplaceable to me, to just have a group of people around me that totally like understand me inside and out, like have known me before I went through any of the stuff that I went through, have known me as I was going through it, knows me after, knows me like in every sense of the word. And that helped me more than I even think that I know that it
Yeah.
helped me.
No, yeah.
And yeah, I
In
love it.
terms of your just overall confidence, where does that spring from? Is that just an amalgamation of like different scenarios of like your support network just hyping you up, and your life experience of like just putting your foot down and not giving a fuck and just being like, no, this is me, you either accept it or you can jog on? Like, where does that all just come from to help
Yeah,
normalize just you being you?
totally. I think that a lot of the people that I've looked up to in my life are very like larger than life personalities. I think like my dance teacher growing up was very much like larger than life, was very, expressive in the way that she dressed, and she was 50 years old. And my mother's the same way, always dressed like super sexy, and people would always tell her like, "Oh, you shouldn't dress like that. You're a mother, you have kids." And Lady Gaga is like my biggest influence in life. I've been a
I've
fan of,
got a friend that's obsessed with Lady Gaga.
but she's like, I have been obsessed with Gaga since Just Dance came out. Like she, growing up, like when I was in the thick of being bullied in middle school, like Gaga was who I looked to as being like, the home for the misfits, the people who don't fit in, like to look to Gaga and all the Gaga fans and all like the weird shit that she was doing, and being like, it's so much better to be weird and you don't fit in and sort of hated, but you're yourself through it all. And you're just getting to celebrate who you are, whether or not other people want to dance with you. And I think like being able to look up to so many people with larger than life personalities, and people who I thought were so beautiful and powerful, that routinely looked at what other people were saying about them and said, no way, absolutely not. I'm going to do what I need to do for me. That absolutely is where I got that same sort of attitude about myself growing up, whether it be through the adults that were around me or the celebrities that I looked up to.
I know that, and I'm glad you got to that place, first of all. I know that your thing that like shot you up on in terms of like YouTube, I saw that your most viewed video was your slam poem, and you got pretty emotional in it. Why were you so feeling the need to share something like that at a raw moment, basically? Why did you share it?
Yeah, I think when I first started talking about body image, I started talking about it because I was in a creative writing class, and I didn't have any friends in the class, and me and the teacher were just like very close. We got very like, she became like my favorite teacher. It was like people always talk about it, like everybody has that one English teacher that like totally changed their life. And that was,
It was for me, my English teacher and my drama teacher. Like, I freaking
yeah,
love writing.
it's like everyone has that experience with like an English teacher or like some arts teacher of some
Yeah.
kind, like totally just like opens a door for them. And that's absolutely what happened for me. I was in high school, and that was like the first time I ever started talking about my body image. And I didn't know anybody in that class. Most of them were the year above me. And we did like a presentation at the end, and I had wrote a poem about my body image, not the one that is big on my YouTube channel, but a different one. And my teacher had encouraged me to read it in front of the class because she thought it was so great. And I was like, because I trusted her so much and loved her so much, I did it. I said it in front of the class. And afterwards, there were a ton of people who came up to me just to like congratulate me for saying it and to pat me on the back. And after I did that, I was like, wow, like maybe I do have something to say that can resonate with people. So that's when I started making body image content on YouTube. At the time, my friends and I had started giving self-confidence workshops to the middle school in our town. And then we ended up traveling with it. Like we would go around to schools in Massachusetts and give speeches on self-confidence and leadership to young women. And I used to read my poems at the workshops. And so I just started writing more and more about body image since I had more and more of an audience to talk about it with. And eventually came writing the slam poem, which was like the poem of all poems. It was like telling the full story all in one, in a way that felt like expressing my creativity and being able to be artful about the story. And yeah, that's how it came to be, just needing to write, being encouraged to write, and wanting to share my story on top of being involved in creating self-confidence workshops for young women and wanting to like share my story through my art.
No, absolutely. And in terms of that, I think it's a universal thing that well within English class, I know that here in the UK that you need to do at least one lesson where you do like create like public speaking, so you have to present in front of the whole class. And in terms of like the whole confidence thing, for me being just different in the sense that I didn't even know I was trans. I was just being labeled before I could even figure out my own like peace of mind actually. For me it was just being like you making YouTube videos at that time for like an expressionate outlet, but being mercilessly bullied for that, and then taking the time just to be like, you know what, I don't care, and making something I'm passionate about, writing, and just making that into an art form to express how I felt about confidence, self-expression and self-love. And for me it was just like the minds I was listening to at that time, because I lived such a sheltered lifestyle, that I would be nurtured through YouTube, of like YouTubers I still like keep in contact to today, and their depictions of confidence and dealing with bullies and stuff like that. So it really helped me to propel me into the character I am today. And know that for what you said, it just it does strike me that it's just like beautiful that you can again like go through that too, and it's just mind-boggling. In terms of your career just as a whole on YouTube, did you ever think it would become something much more?
I have always said that I am like the type of person that I have always believed in like myself and my abilities to like create more than I believed in anything else in life. Like I have doubted lots of things in my life. I've doubted whether or not, you know, if I found myself attractive, if other people found me attractive, if I was cool, if I would fit in. But the one thing that I've never doubted is like my ability to succeed in the things that I put my mind to. And so in like my YouTube content and stuff, I've always said that like it wasn't if people were gonna watch it and like it was when people were gonna start watching it and like it. Because I know that I put my all into things that I create, and I went to school for film. I'm really good at editing, so I have always just felt confident that like my flowers and the recognition for my work would come when it was meant to come. And it has over the last couple months, and that's been so crazy to see.
No, I mean the proof is in the pudding. The content for me, what a rule of thumb for me is that when I can see a good creator is that you're rewatchable. Like even the same video I've already watched, I rewatch just for like a reminder, and you are becoming one of them, like particular videos. And well done on that, because it's a true art form, and it's just like the hours and the work into editing, it's just it goes missed, and there's no true recognition and like for people to understand it basically. So massive well done to that.
Thank you.
It's all right. In terms of your, let's say, sexuality, was that a thing that was celebrated? Did you experiment much or?
My parents are like very much the type of parents that we didn't have a lot of rules growing up. Like they never policed what my siblings and I wore or how we acted. So like growing up, my sister and I did dance together, and I started teaching dance, teaching hip hop when I was 15 years old. And a lot of my choreography that we used to take to competitions was very sexual, and the things that we would want to wear were very sexual. I don't know, like sort of how I guess it started, but I think my mom is like very much like the hot mom, was like always like she has like beautiful fake tits, was always like showing them off, like showing up to like parent
My
teacher.
mom was the exact same. Like my mom, yeah. Like when she would come to pick me up from school, she would get the eyes. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that like watching my mom use like sexuality and sex appeal as a way to like express herself, I was very quick to do the same whenever I had an opportunity to. And I think that because my parents just never gave a shit, they never like set any rules for us. So when my sister and I were choreographing like pretty sexy dances and like whole on like strip teases on a competition stage, they were like the mom and Mean Girls, like, yeah. And so I never even thought twice about it. It was just sort of like, this is who I am. And people used to slut shame my sister and I all the time on the internet. Like on Facebook, my mom would like post pictures of us and someone would be like, how dare you let your daughters dress like this? And my mom would be the first person being there like, hello, I'm the mom, not you. You don't get to police what my daughters wear. I think they look beautiful. I love that my daughters dress like this. In fact, we share closets. So you can shut up because I don't care. And so like having a parent act like that and be so like in your corner about it, I was very much like, well, everyone else is wrong and my mom is right because she's the one who makes the rules.
What would you say that you identify as, if you do know, like on the spectrum?
Yeah, I'm very much like a completely open person. I find myself totally attracted to everyone and anyone.
Everyone that's nice, a nice human.
Yeah, exactly. If we get
It's just
along, it's like
we can get it on.
exactly. There's like no limits to who I can fall in love with, basically.
Gotcha. In terms of like past relationships, have they been something that you've learned from? Have they been scarring, damaging, positive?
I've had I usually say that I've had sort of a lot of bad luck in dating. I think that I have ended up with a lot of the wrong people, unfortunately. Um, I don't know that I've ever been in a situation that like I would say was scarring or something that totally like impacted me on a deep, deep level. But I definitely think that there have been lots of situations that like tiny situations that have stacked up over the years that
Yeah.
have affected like my ability to trust or um just like faith in dating for myself, I think. But I'm such a hopeless romantic that no matter how many times I'm burned, I'm always gonna like be like, oh, but what about the next one? So I think that like even though I've had some bad luck in dating and I've been with people who definitely um really loved the idea of being with me, but like when push came to shove, they couldn't give me what I needed, or they really loved me for like my body and they loved to be with me for like the way that I carry myself, my aura, my energy. But when it came to like actually showing up for me, they couldn't do it and they didn't measure up. So I think that it's definitely impacted me, but I'm too much of a hopeless romantic for it to ever like really get me down.
So in terms of like show up for you, did you mean that because that you were quote unquote different, that's why they never showed up for you? Because they didn't want to be seen with you, or?
There's definitely been situations like that that have happened, but I think that more so it's been like emotionally people
Yes.
won't show up. Like they want all the fun. They want like all of like, oh, here I am posted up on the internet talking about sex. And then they
Yeah.
hear the things I talk about online, or they see the way that I present myself and they're like, oh, she's crazy. She's going to be a good time. And so they want me for like what they think the fun of having me is, being someone who is so like liberated and sexually open and down for anything. They overlook the fact that it's like, no, there are like parts of me emotionally that need to be like nourished and taken care of in order for you to gain access to that part of me. And some people have really they want the fun, but they don't want to put in any of the work to like get to know me and understand me emotionally.
It's such a skewed, distorted vision, because that's an extension of you. And like I said when I was introducing you, you're multifaceted. Everyone's multifaceted, and you're presenting you online, but just a certain side of you, something that is again, you're aware of what you're doing, and you know it's going to be marketable. So you'll know you're going to garner in that influx of people. However, you're doing it for the right reasons, but those individuals are purposefully, if not basing you as a human being just as that, where it's like, no, I'm much more than that. That is me, but I have a lot more to offer. And
Totally.
that's the whole thing that I just don't like about social media. In terms of fetishizing, were you subjected to that?
Yes, there's been one specific instance where I think that nothing. I know that that's what was going on. I'm glad that it was only once
Yeah.
that I know of, but um, yeah, it was someone that it was like a long-term hookup thing that we had been seeing each other. We were friends with benefits. I never had feelings for him, so that was great. It would have been a lot worse if I did.
I know that feeling.
But yeah, he was very like whenever we were together, it's like there's a line between body appreciation and someone who's fetishizing you. And I think because I had struggled so much with my body image in the past, sometimes his like how extreme he was with my body, I was like, am I just rejecting this because I'm not used to someone loving my body this intensely? Like, is
It
this
could
my
go
own
either way,
self-hate?
yeah. You could have either clung on to it because you're like, oh my gosh,
Right.
instant validation.
Yeah. Because it's like he used to say things and do things when we were together that I always felt uncomfortable about, and I was like, that feels weird that you would say something like that to me. Like it just made me feel icky. And I was always like, is this a real issue or am I just insecure? And this is my insecurity coming out and saying, you don't deserve someone to say good things about you like that. And he and I hooked up for years. And it wasn't until the very end of it that I looked back on it and I was like, God damn it. No, I was right all along. Cause like towards the very end of it all, the reason why he was blocked and things moved on was there was a situation where he basically admitted to me that he would never want his friends to know that we talked to each other or that we were hooking up with each other because he didn't want his friends to know that he was attracted to plus size women. And I was like, oh, bet. Blocked immediately. I was like so mad at myself for not catching on that
Catching
this
on
was
the red
maybe what
flags.
was before. But I was just like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I know now, and now he's blocked. And now I am never letting someone like that close to me ever again because that's totally unacceptable. But
It's
that was,
horrendous. It is
yeah,
actually horrendous. Unless you consent to it or being paid for it, you won't do
right.
shit. So no, if I can monetize that, then okay. But no, that
Yeah.
it's just ucky and like disgusting, and like with being trans, it's just so fetishized. So I understand
Mhm.
what you're saying, and it's horrendous, and that's why, like you're harnessing, and I'm harnessing like our worth, and like
Yeah.
just utilizing this time to speak upon such topics. I actually have a one of my best friends who's I've tattooed on my leg, and she like just started this all for me, like my journey. She's a plus sized female drag queen. She's like the embodiment of just being an icon and just like entirely beautiful. And like she walks around in her flat completely butt naked, and I freaking love that. Like instantly she was just like comfortable. She's just comfortable with who she is. And I watched something from one YouTuber that I really like, and she mentioned this, and I always thought this, that we need to practice looking at ourselves more, walking around naked more, and being more comfortable with our bodies. And that can range from anywhere in the scale, with to do with like gender dysphoria or just being plus size or anything that you don't like around about your body. Before making an instant change because of what society deems as attractive, just be comfortable with you and make an informed decision of a life altering change just for aesthetics or just to be deemed as attractive. And I just completely hate that somebody could tell someone what to do with their body. I find that so morally, mentally messed up. Have there been situations where you've compromised your worth, your everything for someone just for an ounce of affection or love?
Not intentionally. I think looking back, I can be like, oh God, there was a red flag that you ignored. Why did you do that? But in the moment, it's like I'm not even registering it as being like a red flag that I'm overlooking. So I think that like there definitely have been instances, but they're moments that I didn't even realize that I was compromising my worth and my values until long after.
Was that like a kick in the face kind of moment for you, or were you like, okay, noted, I'm just not going to repeat that?
Yeah, I'm like very hard on myself when it comes to like past decisions that I've made, especially in like dating and people that I've surrounded myself with, because I think in my head I'm like, especially now looking back on all of it, I'm like, I know what I'm worth, I know what I want, like have it all figured out inside my head. And then I look back and I'm like, dated all these people who don't even check like a quarter of the boxes. I'm like, why did you even go on a second date in the first place? And so like I can look back now, knowing what I know now, and like judge myself through the lens of today. And I can do that all day long, honestly. But I think that I've learned is just that like I'm trying not to judge my past self through.
It's got you to where you are.
Right.
And like how you were mentioning before about like if you were to do things differently, you wouldn't wish this upon anyone, but you're happy where you are today because it's made you, with going through trauma, upset, etc., etc., it either makes or breaks you. So it's unfortunate that it happens, but you turn out to be such a, typically speaking, a lovely, or try to be a lovely human being. And I'm really glad you said that because it's so true.
Exactly. And like I think that you have to sort of give grace and patience to your past self, and knowing that like at the time you made the best decision for the information that you had at the time. You had no idea that this person was going to treat you poorly, and like it's not the fault of a lover that somebody else decided to be a dick. I'm like very much in the school of belief that like if you are a kind, loving person, if other people take advantage of you and like totally hurt you because you are so loving and we're so quick to let them in, that is still their fault, not yours. I think that like being a lover and being someone who is so open to loving and letting people in, that is such a beautiful, wonderful thing to be. And some people are going to take advantage of that and really walk all over you. And that is awful, but that is on them, not you. And I think that like really coming to that helps a lot, because it's like, I'm not going to blame my past self for bringing my best self to the table and still being hurt. That's not my problem. And like I can look back now and be like, you know what? I would have made different decisions. There are things now that I'm like, that's a red flag. But at the time I didn't know. Yeah. So she did her best. We love her for that. And I now know something more moving forward. And that's all that I can do.
Are you spiritual?
Not really, I wouldn't say. Like, I guess I just don't know how to define spirituality. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
a
such a
very,
vague term.
yeah. I think that like I'm not religious at all. But at the same time, I am very much like do believe in the power of the universe and really love like a lot of spirituality practices because I
Yeah.
think they're very like centering and help you get to know yourself sort of thing. I think my a lot of my beliefs are like very much in like the power of the individual and in like, you know, you are the one in the driver's seat of your own life. You get to decide all of like what you put out into the world and like no one is going to write whatever happens to you in your life for you. So, yeah. I think like there's definitely like some spirituality practices that I absolutely follow, but I wouldn't describe myself as a super
Yeah.
spiritual person.
Like you
Yeah.
can adopt positive qualities from anything. That's just how I found, and just practice it and see if it works for you, and yeah, adopt it. Um, in terms of gearing your channel and just being like so forthcoming about each and every topic, really, because you do it all. Why aren't you just a quote unquote niche channel? Why are you so broad and vast, and which is great, but why did you choose to do it that way?
Yeah, I think that like throughout my time online, like observing what other people did and like what other people's selling point was, whenever people used to ask me like why do you think people are going to watch your videos? The answer was always, well, because it's me. Like because it's just like, my personality. So, I think when it came to like deciding what I wanted to, you know, what category I wanted to put myself in, it was very much like, okay, well, I'm interested in body image and sex, have lots of things to say about all of them. But I think that the main draw to a lot of what I have to say in those topics is like my personal story and like what my experiences have taught me that somebody else can maybe hear and relate to, or that people who can't relate can hear and be like, oh, that's so interesting. I've never thought about that before. And so I think that also because I've been on the internet for so long, like my presence on the internet was very much like established as a way for me to be myself when I couldn't be myself in my actual life. So I think I've taken a lot of that with me as my channel has grown, just like wanting my channel and my presence online to be a just a reflection of who I truly am. Like me when I'm alone, me in my like most honest self. That is me on the internet.
It's kind of like your journal, basically, of your growth.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
how did you find it comfortable? Because I was having a discussion about this on the previous podcast, actually, and in terms of like what you put out onto social media, I know it can be very challenging and hard to like steer away from a brand or an image or something that you just want people to see from a certain angle, the best angle. And the video of yours I have in mind is like, I think it was to do with your how to take like sexy selfies. In terms of like the way you executed it, it was like, it wasn't like put on to make that angle flattering. It was just honest and raw. Like, here's the way you can look aesthetically pleasing, but here's also just me. Like, hey,
Yeah.
how did you find that courage to be so explicit?
Totally. I think that I try to treat myself the way that I would want to treat like my siblings or my closest friends. And in the same way that I would tell everyone that I love that like you are beautiful as you are right now in this moment. You don't need to change a single thing about you. I try to tell myself the same exact things and like really have worked hard at believing that and have worked hard to sort of like break down why I believed differently about myself in the past. Like why
What
did I
you said,
believe
what you
that
said, yeah.
yeah, like why did I believe that I needed to be thin to be beautiful, to wear a bikini? Why did I believe that? Who decided that? Is there a rule book that I'm supposed to be following? Like who wrote that? Who said that that was like set in stone? No one did. So I'm deciding right now that I actually don't care who decided that, because I'm the person who has to live in this body. And when I'm dead and gone someday, none of this shit is going to matter. So I'm just going to celebrate and enjoy the body that I'm given right now, because someday this body is going to be gone. And if I spend my whole life wishing I had a different one, that's never going to change anything. I'm just
And
losing.
you just wasted your time here idolizing something that wasn't meant for you, for your existence at that time, even if you believe in reincarnation, but you've just wasted your life in theory. And in terms of just like social media, why do you think it's such a struggle for people of like sharing, not even if they don't want to, but like, why do you think everyone is sharing their best self and image? Why do you think that's so prevalent?
I think that like it's what we've been socialized to do. Like everyone wants to fit into like this mold, whether it be with their image and their appearance or with like their personality. Everyone wants to be like the most liked person in the room. And a lot of the time that just means suppressing who you actually are to fit into that mold, because nobody really fits into it. It's just like who's best at like sort of playing the role and putting on the show for everyone. But I think that like it's understandable that people would, because it is extremely vulnerable to be yourself. And like I wish that it was
Wow.
I wish that it wasn't such like an act of bravery to look
Yeah.
at everyone and say like, this is me, fuck it, here I am. But it is.
Yeah.
And so I understand why so many people are like hesitant to be vulnerable, and whether that be like through like photoshopping images or, oh Jesus.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think that it's totally understandable how people feel like nervous to be vulnerable online, whether that be like, you know, they're afraid to post photos without photoshopping or face tuning them, or they're afraid to totally, you know, talk about their emotions and talk about things that are not like, you know, super happy and exciting, and talk about issues that they've had with themselves. I understand why, and I like empathize with it completely, because it's like I used to be there too. Like I used to Photoshop photos of mine. Like I have not always been in a place where I felt totally comfortable in my body. So I like have a lot of love for those people, and just hope that like they go through the growth that will lead them to a place where they can totally accept themselves and be vulnerable, whether it be online or just with the people in their lives.
In real life, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise. Like, it's literally a different world. Like the way it works, like once you like tap into the phone or whatever device you access to use any form of social media, I feel like it's just like a literal false reality that we've all like built like to believe that we're there's so much like care and attention to who we are, what we're representing, that in actuality everyone thinks of themselves as the main character in their life in which they are. So nobody truly cares, like, as harsh as that sounds, to the degree that you're thinking and being hypercritical of yourself. You just need to have that honest talk and conversation with yourself of, is this actually what I want to share? And
Right.
sometimes less is more. However, I don't believe in censorship, but just really hone in on what you're choosing to share. Is it just to garner like that, have a boost of like feed your ego? Is it just for that 5 seconds of like that comment that just yeah, it does bother me a lot. And I'm working with like on myself on the daily, just to actively be more mindful. And because I know that you just briefly said that you were wrapped up in it, what was the moment of you just coming out of that spell?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been like very slowly over the course of like many years. And I think especially there's been a lot of change in me over the last year. I think the last year of my life has been when I have really experienced like true like happiness and contentment in my body. And I don't look at photos and think like, oh God, I wish that I could change this part of my body and change that part of my body. It's like gotten less and less over the years. I think I was definitely at my worst with it when I was in high school, and it's been like slowly getting better since then. And the last year has been like the peak of all of it, where I have rarely, if ever, thought something like that about myself when I'm looking at photos. Um, but it just feels like sort of over a long period of time, just routinely having to check in with myself and remind myself that there is nothing wrong with my body as it currently is. And just because I don't look like this person or this person or that person, that doesn't make me in my body any less beautiful than the next person. So it's just been like many years of having to keep that reminder at the forefront of my brain.
Perfectly said, Maddie, honestly. In terms of like, just to wrap things up slowly, in terms of like backlash, because I know, I think that feeds into a lot of people's worries and qualms about being so open and almost vulnerable, in the sense that it's quite upsetting that that's deemed as vulnerable. It's just because it's you. So, but I digress. In terms of backlash, how, because everyone is human, they have their off days. So something that doesn't typically hurt you could hurt you and affect you on that particular day. So how do you deal with your bad days in terms of backlash, reading hurtful comments? Something might strike you much more on that particular day.
Yeah, I don't read them. When I'm in a place where I know that even the slightest thing is going to upset me, I will not read my comments. I will just let it go, forget that it exists, focus on things like sometimes I'll accidentally read a nasty comment and I'll spend like 30 minutes talking to myself, like as if I was going to respond. And then I never which I need to stop doing that because everyone's like that like invites the negative energy into your space, like just talking about it, you're not gonna respond. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna respond to them because that just it's inviting a conversation that I don't want to have. But I'm
literally
like such an urge to fight back.
It's literally like, you know, when you have your those arguments where you're like, oh my gosh, I could have said this and that after the argument.
That's literally what I do. It's bad. I shouldn't do it because it's like just inviting, like I'm allotting more mental energy to it than I should. But when people say like nasty shit for no reason to like a complete stranger on the internet, I'm like, you don't know me and you just spent like 30 minutes writing a 12-page dissertation on why I like don't deserve to be happy. I want to fight you. Like that is, you are deeply unwell, but you just wrote all of that. So I try to just not read it, and I try to, something that I've been practicing a lot recently, which really puts it to the test reading comments like that, is just practicing accepting people as deeply flawed individuals and accepting that everyone is both good and bad, and the people that are writing such nasty things are deeply struggling with something, and I wish them peace and happiness on their journey. I hope that someday they don't have that much hate inside of them, and I just have to like wish them well on that journey, accept them for where they're at, and move on with my life.
I've heard some success stories of like creators not acknowledging what they said, and then they just say, okay, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, and then that person that making that angry comment replies by saying, oh, and then they like go to like talking about like, oh, I'm so sorry about this, what I said, I was just in a heated moment, but oh, that is such a good outlook. Like I think of little things of like that mindset, but like for you to say that, it just reaffirms the approach that is one of the approaches that is a healthy mindset, and that's truly beautiful. In terms of like final words for anyone on the cusp of exploring their sexuality, being very open, walking down the street in a crop top, but being plus sized, what would you have to say to those types of people that are just thinking about being looked at as ugly or whatever?
Yeah. I feel like my number one piece of advice is just to be gentle with yourself on the journey. Like you're going to have to make some brave leaps and put yourself in situations where you're afraid that someone's going to say something to you or that you're not going to be accepted, and it's going to be difficult and it's going to feel really hard at times. And there are going to be moments that you're going to let the negativity get to you. And that's okay. Take a step back, be gentle with yourself. It is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel defeated. It is okay to feel like you're not going to get to a place where things are going to be better. Just give yourself like the love and patience and grace that you would give the people that you actually, love and spend time with, your family, your friends, and let that wash over yourself. Be patient, be kind to yourself. It's okay to have a bad day. You will get there eventually.
I don't know if you've heard of inner child work, but a lot of what you've been talking about is like treat others how you would want to be treated. And I really hone in on like mental health in general, but there's one that's called inner child work. So you at your inner core, you wouldn't tell a child that they're ugly and this and that. So why would you do that to yourself? Why would you want to hurt yourself and damage yourself that way? Why would you wouldn't do that to somebody that you really cared for and loved? You would tell them that they're beautiful because you believe that to be true. So apply it to yourself.
Totally. I think there's also like a lot of power in thinking about your child self and thinking about like the person that they hoped to grow up into. Yes. And how they would have seen you now. And I think that like I think about like myself when I was younger and what she would think about me now. And I'm like, she would think I was a bad bitch, baby.
The fact that your name is Maddie and you're baddie.
Exactly. We're getting there.
No, it's honestly been so refreshing to talk to someone from your perspective, being in the States, being so far, and being so reachable. That's like the beneficial side of like social media, of like the networking and everything. And again, I want to take this time to thank you for this beautiful conversation that I've experienced with you, and I'm really, really grateful for it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun.
Finally, is there anything you'd like to plug for people to check you out?
Totally. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube. I post every single week. Maddie Dragsbaek, Dragsbaek, baby. It's a little hard to spell, but you will find me and we will get there.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching episode 2 of Loving Me, Loving You, and stay tuned for the next episode.